As a podcaster, one of the most valuable assets that you have is your audience, and it's important to listen to their feedback and make changes accordingly. Let's chat about how to gather and use podcast feedback. In order to gather feedback from your audience, you have to make it easy for them to give it to you. Here are 5 easy ways to gather feedback. Spotify for Podcasters offers interactive features that allow you to add questions and polls directly to your podcast episodes. This is created easily using Spotify for Podcasters, and the responses are collected in real time, making it easy for you to analyze and apply the feedback quickly. The poll feature and question stickers on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter allow you to engage with your audience and get their feedback on specific topics or questions. You can use these features to ask for opinions on potential guests, episode topics, or even on the format of your podcast. Create a survey with a site like SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. Make sure to have a link to it in your show notes, a call to action in your episodes for your audience to fill it out, and include it on your podcast website as well. If you have an email list, you can also send the form to that list. Host live Q&A sessions on social media or other platforms like YouTube or Instagram, where listeners can ask questions and provide feedback in real time. This is a great way to engage with your audience and build a stronger community around your podcast. Encourage listeners to leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. This will not only help with your podcast's visibility, but also provide valuable feedback for you to work with. Some feedback-related questions that you can ask your audience are: what topics would you like to hear more about on the podcast? What types of podcasts do you typically listen to? Is there a guest you would be interested in hearing from? Would you prefer the podcast be shorter or longer? What social media platforms do you use? What are you usually doing while consuming podcast content? Are there any other podcasts in this niche that you listen to? How did you discover the podcast, and how long have you been listening? What do you think sets this podcast apart from other podcasts you listen to? Is there anything that could be added to the podcast to enhance your listening experience? What is your favorite podcast episode and why? To analyze feedback effectively, it's important to categorize it and identify common themes. You can start by organizing the feedback into different categories, such as positive feedback, negative feedback, suggestions for improvements, and general comments. Within each category, you can look for common themes that emerge across multiple responses. Here are some tips on how to use feedback effectively. Be willing to accept feedback even if it may not align with your current vision for the podcast. Approach feedback with an open mind and consider all suggestions and criticisms. Listen carefully to what your listeners are saying and ask follow-up questions if necessary to gain a deeper understanding of their feedback. Prioritize feedback based on its relevance and potential impact on your podcast. Consider the source of the feedback and the frequency when deciding which feedback to act on. Respond to feedback and take action to address any concerns and suggestions, and let your listeners know that you're taking their feedback into account. Show gratitude to your listeners for taking the time to provide feedback. Thank them for their suggestions and let them know how their feedback is helping you improve your podcast. As mentioned earlier, keep track of all feedback you receive, categorize it, and analyze it for common themes. This will help you identify patterns and make informed decisions about the direction of your podcast. Stay positive when receiving feedback, even if it may be critical. Use feedback as an opportunity to learn and grow, and keep your focus on the end goal of improving your podcast for your listeners. Using listener feedback is a powerful tool to improve your podcast and build a stronger connection with your audience. By collecting feedback, analyzing it, and applying it in a meaningful way, you can take your podcast to the next level. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. And before you go, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss another video from Riverside. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next one.